Hi, I'm George Hill, your host here at Slidelock Radio, and welcome to episode 2. And today I'm going to talk about Snubnose Revolvers. And I'm going to start out with a little story. I went through my police academy. It was a combined Colorado Post, National Park Service Law Enforcement Ranger Academy at Colorado Northwestern in Rangeley, Colorado. Great school. Now, when I went through the firearms portion of it, I went through that class with a Smith & Wesson Model 10 Snubnose. And the reason I did that was because the topic had come up that there was a lot of bashing of the Snubnose Revolvers, saying that they are completely inaccurate, they're obsolete, and nobody should use them anymore. They're relics, dinosaurs. Well, here's the thing. I outshot my entire police academy using a Snubnose Smith & Wesson Model 10. I'm saying that not because I'm bragging, but I'm just saying that with concentration and dedication and with some effort, that Snubnose revolver can be exceptionally accurate, and I proved that to the class. There was a lot of snickering when I first drew it out. I was using a longer holster than I needed, and I had larger grips than I needed on the gun, so it looked like I was packing this cannon until I drew the weapon, and everybody saw it was this little Snubnose. It was kind of funny, and there was some snickering, there was some heckling, but all that stopped when they realized that I was out shooting them, and everybody else was packing Glocks and SIGs and Berettas, 1911s. There was even I believe it was a Colt Python, but all that laughing stopped. Now, I'm not bragging that I'm some sort of superhero shot. I can take care of my own, but I'm not saying I'm a great shot. But what it came down to was that I wanted to shoot well with it, so I concentrated and I tried really hard, and I pulled it off. It all came down to one thing, though: trigger control. You can have the perfect grip and stance, sight alignment, sight picture, all of that can be absolutely flawless. And then when you go to pull the trigger and you jerk that trigger, it throws everything else out the window. It all comes down to trigger control. I read in a shooter's Bible from, I believe it was 1954. I wish I still had that book. But a competitive shooter was talking about the number one secret to handgun accuracy. And he said it's trigger control. Your trigger pull is everything. Competitive rifle shooters will talk about, they're using 9 to 12 pound rifles, and they're talking about, and they will nitpick to death their trigger. The trigger's got to be super crisp. It's got to be this, super light. And this is in a weapon that weighs 9 to 12 pounds. This is crazy. Now, with a handgun, this is just reversed. You're talking about a 9 to 12 pound trigger pull in most double action revolvers. In a gun, a Smith & Wesson airweight can be measured in ounces. You're talking 1 pound or less. Very lightweight guns with heavy trigger pulls. So you can see the importance of a trigger, of that trigger pull. It's absolutely critical. No matter what handgun you have. You can have a custom 1911, Nighthawk custom, whatever this gun is. You can still, if you pull that trigger bad because of your own personal bad habits, such as jerking the trigger, flinching, whatever it is, you can throw all the good things in that gun out the window because you've ruined it because of trigger control. Now, if you talk to any current modern competitive shooter, everyone that I know, they will talk about dry fire practice. And I'm not talking about sitting there watching TV, masturbating your firearm by just repeatedly pulling the trigger. I'm talking about dedicated, pointed practice where you get up off your butt, you're standing, you are standing with a proper stance, you've got a proper grip, you've got your sight alignment, you've got your sight picture, and you try to dry fire that gun to the point where you don't get any twitch in your front sight post. No twitch at all. The gun should go click, and that's it. It shouldn't move. That's a good trigger pull. If you can't, and if you see any twitch in that front sight post, that was a bad trigger pull. Just simple as that. If you've got a laser pointer, a laser sight on your gun, crimson trace grips, whatever the case may be, that's even better because you can get a finer view of what's going on. You project that laser beam to your target, and if you see that laser beam twitch at all when that trigger breaks, you know you've got some work to do. So I look at a crimson trace grip not as just as a shooting aid, but as a training aid. Love crimson trace grips, but because that laser's not going to lie to you. You can lie to yourself, but that laser is going to tell you the truth. If that laser twitches when your shot breaks, you've missed your shot. Simple as that. Most of these modern firearms, they're much more accurate, and especially these little Smith & Wesson airweights, they're incredibly accurate little guns. The Ruger LCRs, they're incredibly accurate little guns. They're more accurate than most of the shooters using them. So trigger control is absolutely essential. Now, the Smith & Wesson Jframe, that is the classic. That's the Snubnose Revolver that all others are judged by, the Model 60. Then you got the airweights, the 642s. There's other ones out there, the Taurus airweights, basically the same design. Great little guns. I really like the Ruger SP101s. I like the solid stainless snub nose myself. That's just me. And I'm starting, and I don't really have any rational explanation for it, but I'm starting to really like the Ruger LCRs, specifically the LCR X's with that hammer. I like a hammer, and like I said, trigger pull is important. If there's anything I can do to the gun to give me an advantage in that trigger pull, why not take it if I have the chance? If I can take a good firing grip on the gun and use my offhand thumb to thumb cock it as I come up out of the holster, press out to the target, I've thumb cocked the weapon, why wouldn't I do that? I've done that before, and people have seen me do that, and they've jumped on me, and they say, oh, whoa, wait, you can't cock the gun. Why not? Why can't I thumb cock the gun? The mechanical components are there. I can cock it. Why not do it? I do not have to shoot a DASA type gun or a double action revolver just in double action. If it's not a double action only, why not take the time? If I've got the time, why not take the time? Why not make that extra little movement with my offhand thumb cock it as I'm getting onto target? Tell me why. If I'm wrong, give me that, hit me in the comment, tell me why I'm wrong, and I should never, ever, ever manually cock a double action firearm of any sort, be it a SIG, a Beretta, an HK, a GP100, a 696, whatever it is. Tell me why I should never do that. I think you should, if you have the advantage, always do that. Always make that shot as accurate as possible. If you've got a little tiny lightweight 38 Special or 357 Magnum, and it's got a heavy recoil, and it's got a limited amount of ammunition on board, you've only got 5 shots, why not do whatever it is you can to take advantage of those 5 shots by making them as accurate as possible? Now, if the situation calls for speed, by all means, row through that trigger 5 times, break 5 shots as fast as possible in the situation. But if that situation gives me an opportunity, if the target is a little bit further away, and I can take just a hairbreadth of a second to thumb cock that action, why not? Okay, I've beaten a dead horse on this. This has been bothering me. That Snubnose Revolver, that is still the classic self-defense choice. You've got 5 rounds with no compromise on power. that is still an outstanding choice. It's not a dinosaur. It's not outdated. 357 Magnum, by any stretch of the imagination, is still just as potent today as it was when Elmer Keith helped develop it. You know, a 158 grain slug at 1,500 feet per second is nothing to sneeze at. Now, of course, you're not getting that performance out of a snub nose. You lose some with the shorter barrel length, but still, that's the ideal. And that's a great ideal. That's a fantastic payload. But, you know, even with 38 Special, I still like, I prefer heavy for caliber projectiles. Any load I'm going to buy is, I'm going to buy the heavier. I like the 135s in 9mm. Critical Duty by Hornady is a great load. I love that stuff. You know, that gives me a little bit more oomph, a little bit more penetration, I think. I feel a little bit more confident. And that's the important thing. Forget all the math and ballistics gel testing, all the marketing hype. It comes down to I'm more confident with it. And I feel like I shoot better with heavy for caliber loads. That's just me. Your mileage may vary. But you have some nice 158 wad cutters, or jacketed hollow point, or whatever you have in your 357 or your 38 Special. You know, 5 shots for most self-defense situation is that's a great payload. That's a great self-defense choice. You can't go wrong with that. That's your classic T-shirts and jeans, Ford Mustang kind of Americana classic choice. You can't go wrong with that. That's fantastic. Anybody says that's an outdated choice and that's no longer viable in today's modern world, well, who's that guy? What's his experience and background? Is he Jim Cirillo? No, I'll take a snub nose any time. I'm still looking for that GP1, not a GP100. Yeah, GP100. The GP100 with a 4-inch barrel. I think that's probably the premier self-defense revolver. You can disagree with me if you like. Go ahead and make those comments. Tell me I'm up in the night. Smith & Wesson's where it's at. Go ahead and argue that all you want. But from what I've seen personally, that's my choice. I don't have one. I'm looking for one. I'm looking for the right one, the perfect one to come my way. And when I find it, well, then I'll get it. We'll see how that happens. Anyway, going back to that Smith & Wesson airweight. The problem with the airweights, though, really snappy in recoil. And you hear a lot of gun counter guys, and a lot of people talk, oh, you're a woman, you need to have an airweight Smith & Wesson. Well, you're probably not going to really enjoy that gun all that much because they are very snappy. You can get some reduced recoil loads, and that'll help out the situation. You can get some real soft shooting from Hornady. They've got a reduced recoil load. Federal has a reduced recoil load with the Hydroshock projectile. And these are good rounds for self-defense, for somebody who might be recoil sensitive. Here's the thing, though. If you have a semi-auto pistol and you can't rack the slide on it, you're probably not going to be able to handle full power ammo out of an airweight revolver. That's the downside. That's the double edge of that sword. Anyway, practice that trigger control. Practice that dry fire. That's where the rubber meets the road. And if you can do that with a lightweight snub nose revolver, that's, you can't argue against that. That's your self-defense is going to be practically assured. That's a good combination. Now, if you need something other than that, you can't handle the recoil in a lightweight 38. Well, maybe a heavier 38, a solid stainless. I really like the SP101 revolver as well. Norseman on WeTheArm.com let me shoot his SP101 that he had tweaked on for a article review for Concealed Carry Magazine. And holy cow, I've been a Smith & Wesson guy all my life. But wow, that SP-101 was an outstanding little revolver. Man, it was accurate. It was fun to shoot. That was a great little gun. Maybe I should get one of those too. Not a bad choice. GP100, SP101, get both. Marianne versus Ginger, it's a trick question. The correct answer is both. So, that's just my modus operandi. That's what I like. Let's see, what else should we talk about here? Those are the two main things I wanted to talk about this week. Don't disparage the Snubnose Revolvers. Don't do it. Don't do it. You end up looking like an idiot. Who's got the best one? I don't know. There's this new Gunsmoke edition of Smith & Wesson Jframe, and very interesting gun. The one thing about the Gunsmoke edition, I don't like the fact that it's, they've cut the hammer off, and they've put a weird grip on it that's got a hook, that old-fashioned, pocket clip hook on a grip. Why would you do that? That changes the way the gun feels in the hand. It's annoying. You take what could be a great gun and you just ruin it with those grips. I also don't like the fact that they cut off the hammer spur. Again, anything that can get you a more accurate first shot, why not? Why not do it? But that is a really nice little revolver. It's very smooth. Coming out of Smith & Wesson's Performance Center with a really nice action job, trigger job. I would recommend it highly, but I would also take those grips and trade those off for some Crimson Trace grips. Then you would have a really nice little package. That's probably the top custom production snub nose you can get right now. There's a couple places I know that might have them in stock. I know in Charlotte, that's the closest city where I'm living at now is Charlotte, North Carolina. Who's Hyatt's? I know Hyatt's has one in stock. I saw it at Hyatt's. I think maybe Point Blank Range also has it in stock. I may have seen it there at Point Blank in Matthews. The Point Blank in Mooresville. I'm not sure if they have one there, but I think I did see one in Matthews at Point Blank. But check out the Gunsmoke, and that's an interesting revolver. Well, I think that's about all I wanted to talk about. I was going to talk about gun fu, the fact that how trainers are acting like old kung fu movies. With my dojo teaches kung fu stronger than your kung fu. You got all those old Jackie Chan, kung fu movies, and seeing firearms trainers, professionals, basically act like these old black and white kung fu movies is kind of hilarious. Doesn't matter what background your trainer's coming from. It's all good. Everybody's offering good training these days. Nobody's really offering bad training. If there is really bad training, it usually gets called out really quick, publicly and embarrassingly for the person, such as the guy who exited the truck and jumped back into the back seat of the truck and hung out from underneath the door to shoot his target, and then fell out of the truck to continue engaging his target. That was a bit ridiculous, and it was responded to very quickly with basically justified ridicule. But just because your trainer or a trainer is not an ex-Navy SEAL doesn't mean he's not a good trainer. I've taken training classes from people with all different kinds of backgrounds, military of all branches. My friend Daniel Shaw from Gunfighter Cast is out there in Kansas at Thunderbird Tactical. He's teaching some outstanding classes. Rob Pincus comes from a law enforcement background. He's teaching some outstanding classes. I've taken classes from a lot of different guys. Steve Reichert you know, sniper, outstanding individual. He taught a fantastic handgun class. But I learned something from everybody I've taken a class from, no matter what their background from. Masad Ayub, one of the very best in the nation, law enforcement background. He teaches an outstanding class that's still every bit as valid today as it was, you know, back when Rolling Rock beer was invented. You know, he got his start. It was an outstanding class from Masad Ayub, one of the best. I recommend his highly. For the citizen shooter, for the civilian marksman, you know, we're not learning warfighting skills for self-defense purposes. There are those who might need those classes and want those classes, and by all means take those classes. But if you're a civilian shooter, a citizen shooter that's wanting to learn self-defense, you don't have to go to Academy, to Blackwater, to Thunder Ranch, to Gunsight to get these classes. You can take them from any number of the instructors that are out there. You know, if they're teaching bad, you know, let people know, let other people know. If they're not having a good course, you know, do a little research on your instructor, see what the feedback is from the people who've taken their class. And if the feedback is good, well, go ahead, because the more training you get, and of course I recommend taking more than one class. It's not like driver's ed where you take driver's ed one time when you turn 16 and then you never take driver's ed again and you drive for the rest of your life. Shooting's not like that. Shooting requires, I would say, a training course every year, at least. The more training you get, the better. The better your skills increase. And the problem with firearms training is that if you don't train, if you don't get out and practice, if you don't do your dry fire practice, shooting is a very perishable skill. It's like milk. You know, you can't just buy a gallon of milk at the beginning of the month and expect to still have milk, you know, that's viable at the end of the month. It's not going to happen. You take a training class 1 year, you know, it's going to diminish by the time you get around to taking a class the next year. You've got to keep refreshing that. So take classes from whoever you can, whenever you can, as much as you can is my recommendation. Everybody's Kung Fu is better than no Kung Fu. Okay? Let's put it that way. So, anyway, if you disagree with me in any way, please leave a comment. I'm your host, George Hill, and thanks for joining me for a short but I feel important episode of Slidelock Radio.